Tonight's shir is being dedicated by Rabbi Elchanan Shaf, who's the Rav of Beis Knesset of Los Angeles, also known as BKLA. And so it should be in his chus. So we say like this. The pasuk says in Parshas Emor, Eile moyadei Hashem mikroei kodesh lahakriv. No, Eile moyadei Hashem asher tikru oisam mikroei kodesh lahakriv ishei laHashem oilo umincha zevach unesachim dvar yoim beyoimai. Dvar yoim beyoimai. So Rashi says, what's Dvar Yom B'Yoimai, the requirements of every day on its day? Zokt Rashi that Dvar Yom B'Yoimai, ha'im ovar zmanoi batel karbonoi. You could only bring the karbonos of the day on that day. If that day passed, you can no longer bring the karbonos, which means that Dvar Yom B'Yoimai is coming to limit the karbonos. Only b'yoimai can the dvar yoim be korev, and the dvar yoim b'yoimai is really going on the seif of the pasuk, which is lahakriv ishe laHashem oilo mincha zevach unesachim. That has to be dvar yoim b'yoimai, and if it's avar zmanoi, bottle karbonoi. But perhaps we can say, we find dvar yoim b'yoimai also in a sense of harchova, also in a sense of expanding what we're talking about. In other words, the pasuk in Malachim Aleph that we say every day in the end of the Hishanis says, "V'yiyu." Shlomo HaMelech says, "V'yiyu dvarai eile asher ischananti lifnei Hashem, kroivim el Hashem Elokeinu yoimam v'laylo, lasois mishpat avdoi u'mishpat amo Yisrael dvar yoim b'yoim." What does that mean? So the Radak says, Yoimam v'layla, lioi shmirosoi tamid lasois mishpotenu, that the words that I'm being mischanein to the Rebbeinu Shalom should not get lost. I mean, they should be kroivim al Hashem Elokeinu, Yoimam v'layla, zok the Radak, lioi shmirosoi tamid lasois mishpotenu, upirush mishpot b'mokai mazeh, kemoi kemishpat habonois, Yaselo v'hadoimeloi. Koloimar doesn't mean judgment. Koloimar lo seis lonu dvar yoim b'yoim mashonu tzrichim lashpia lonu atoive uleshomreinu meiroo ubazeh yedu kol amei oretz ki Hashem hu Elokim, like he concludes, ki advekim boi svei toiva v'nishmor meiroo. And the Mitzvah says dvar yoim b'yoim dova hanitzrich b'yoim ahu yase b'yoim. So over here, the Dvar Yom B'Yoim is coming to say something punkt verkehrt. The Dvar Yom B'Yoim is coming to say that the tefillas that Shlomo HaMelech was mispalel on the day that he inaugurated the Mikdash, on that day that he brought over 100,000 karbonis, the tefillas that he was mispalel are not just for the here and now, but he's saying it should help, it should accomplish that Yud Dvar Yela Krevim Al Hashem Elokeinu, and they should do Dvar Yoim B'Yoimai in the future. So it's the opposite really of Avar Zmanoi Botel Karbonoi. So it could be that in this pasuk there's really two readings, in the sense of the karbonis, the hakrovas hakarbonis. Oila umincha zevach unesachim. Dvar Yoim B'Yoimai is a limitation that Avar Zmanoi Botel Karbonoi. But in the sense of Eile Moyadei Hashem Asher Tikru Oisa Mikroi Kodesh, the ratio of this pasuk, the Dvar Yoim B'Yoimai is saying, just like it's saying in Malachim, that the Yom Tov is not meant to be just for the then. The Yom Tov is meant to have a lasting effect. It should elevate us, and it should have a hashpah on us. Dvar Yoim B'Yoimai. Throughout the year, Dvar Yoim B'Yoimai, we should be mushpa, we should be influenced, we should be elevated by the Yom Tov. And as we meaning that the Hakravas HaKorban, which represents the Hiskarvus to the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Hiskarvus, the Yom Tov is a time of opportunity. this hiskarvus that a yid can be miskarv to the Rebbeinu Shalom on the Yomim Tovim is something that later cannot be done, cannot be accomplished. But if a yid is makriv the korbonoi, he is miskarev on the Yom Tov, then it affects him dvar yoim beyoimoi throughout the Yomim Haboim Likrosenu L'Sholem. And as we say, V'hasiyenu Hashem Elokeinu es birkas me'adecha l'chaim u'l'sholem, the Abu Draham has 4 pshatim in V'hasiyenu. One of them is, V'hasiyenu is Miloshen Masui, that the Rebbeinu Shalom should load us up with the birkas hamoyadim, and that we should carry it along with us throughout the year. So in that sense, it's not Ovar Zmanoi, it's gone. But Adirabba, Ovar Zmanoi, that's when we continue to be nourished by what we did during the Yom Tov. You know, the Rambam in the Hagdama of the Sefer Mishnah Torah, the Rambam talks about how he divided up the 14 Svarim. And he says, V'ra'isi l'chalek chibur zeh l'yud dalet Svarim. Sefer Rishon is whatever it is. And then Sefer Sheni, Echloil boy ha-mitzvahs shehein tedirois. The mitzvahs that are noyeg all the time. Shenitzlavinu bahem kidei le'ehoiv es hamokoim u'lezochroi tomid. Because Ava is something that requires constant nourishment, and therefore the Rambam calls the mitzvahs tedirois, they are about Ava. And therefore, the Sefer Ava is about the mitzvahs hatadiros, kigoin kriyashma utfilu brachas. He says, Mila b'chlalon. I also included Mila, lefishi oizbiv sorenu, lahazkir tamid b'shosha ein shom lo tefillin v'lo tzitzis v'kayotzeboy. This is based on the Gemara in Menachos, that David HaMelech, when he was Orim and HaMitzvahs in the Beis HaMerchitz, but he reminded himself about the fact that he's a mohul, and therefore that's ongoing, that's always. So Zok de Rambam, the Korosi, Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Ava. So the mitzvahs hatadiris, that's the Sefer Ava. Sefer Shlishi, Echlo boy ha-mitzvah Shem bezmanim you do it. Time-related mitzvahs, going Shabbos and Moedos. The Korosi, Shem Sefer Zeh, Sefer Zmanim. Self-understood, yeah, it's about the mitzvahs that are totally in Zmanim. But you know, the Rambam in the beginning of each Sefer, he has a posik, that he quotes a posik in the beginning of each Sefer. In the beginning of Sefer Zmanim, the posik that the Rambam shows is Nochalti Eid Voisecha La'olam. I took your testimony, your Torah, as a heritage La'olam, La'olam. As a Yerusha La'olam, Ki Sesoin Libi Heim. So how does this pasuk come to be the pasuk in the Sefer Zmanim, which is l'choreh not la'olam? It would seem that the Rambam is really coming to say that even the mitzvahs that we perform during particular Zmanim, but they're not just for those Zmanim. They need to be absorbed, they need to be internalized, they need to be, in a way, that it's nochalti eid voisecha la'olam ki sesoin libi heima. This is really like the Birchas Kedushas Hayoim of the Moyados. V'hanchi leinu Hashem Elokeinu b'simchu v'sosain moyadei kodshecha. So it becomes a nachlo. The Moyadim are a nachlo. The Radak says nochalti eid voisecha k'moy nachlo heimli. K'loy mashani muchzik bohem k'odam ha-muchzik b'nachlosei la'olam. So in other words, the Maisa mitzvah is during the Zmanim, but we're machzik bohem all year round. That's an achalti eid veisecha la'olam ki sesoin libi heima. And you know, the Gemara says in Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed that kol mitzvah shekiblu Yisrael b'simcha adayin mekaimim oisa b'simcha. So the achalti eid veisecha la'olam is because ki sesoin libi heima. If we perform mitzvahs with sasoin, then they have a lasting effect. So you know, this is true about the whole sukkahs. But in this Yom Tov, we also have Shmini Atzeres. So, the Marshal in Tshuva Samaches says that if a Yid is mekabel on himself, Toisefes Yom Tov, Erev Shmini Atzeres. So then, from that moment until it's Vadai Laila, until Seisach Yechovim, he can't eat Bechlal. He says because in the Sukkah, he can't eat because he was already mekabel Kedushas Shmini Atzeres. Now we're talking in Eretz Yisrael with Shmini Atzeres. You're not allowed to eat in the Sukkah. It's Bal Toisif. Even in Chutz La'aretz, you wouldn't be able to make a bracha. So you can't eat. He says, because you can't eat. You can't eat in the sukkah because kvar kibel olav toisefes shmini atzeres. Ubebayis eino yochalecha. Why can't he eat at home? The afagav the kvar chayla like kedushas shmini atzeres. Even though he already took upon himself the kedushas shmini atzeres, mikol makom akati lo yipokam in echiv sukkah. He's still mechuyev. It's still Hoshana Rabbah according to the date, right? So akati lo yipokam in echiv sukkah. The hakati have a hashtag sukkahs. It's still sukkahs. So Mamela, he says that in this time, if somebody was mekabel to Sefer Shmini Atzeres, he can't eat bechlal because he took upon himself Shmini Atzeres, and that makes that he can't eat in the sukkah, but he also can't eat at home because it's still sukkahs. Because the taking upon yourself Shmini Atzeres doesn't undo the sukkahs. It just adds on the Shmini Atzeres, but it doesn't undo the sukkahs. But the Taz in Siman Tov Reish Samach Tes disagrees with the Marshal, and he says that he was geyser at tainis sheloi l'tzarich. And he says because avada he could eat at home, chutz l'sukkah, because since he was mekabel kedusha shmini atzeres, the mitzvah sukkah is gone. So says the Taz. Now the Taz is really a pella because, true, we could be mekabel teisefes and usher in the kedusha of the coming day, but you can't make sukkahs ois sukkahs just because you took upon yourself the kedusha of Shmini Atzeres. It's like saying that if somebody, when a Shabbos leads into Yom Tov, I'll be mekabel kedushas Yom Tov, I'll be able to do a melechas eichel nefesh because I made it ois Shabbos. Avada, there's no such a thing. You can't, by taking on the new day, undo the old day. You could just add on the kedusha sayoim of the coming day. So the question is, it's still the 21st day of Tishrei on the calendar, and the 21st day of Tishrei, we're mechuyev in sukkah. So how in the world is the Marshal saying that given the kibbul of kedusha shmini atzeres pokamine mitzvahs sukkah? Do you know that the Gemara in Sukkah, Daf Mem Ches Amud Aleph, says that shmini atzeres is a regel b'fnei atzmoi le'inyan Pazar Kashav. Pazar Kashav is an abbreviation. Pei Zayin Reish Kuf Shin Beis. Now, what does that stand for? First of all, you see that Shmini Atzeres has a dual identity because on one hand, it's the Shmini, which means that it's really part of Sukkot in a sense, but in another sense, it's Le'inyan Pazar Kashav. It's a regel of Now, Rashi says that the Reish of Pazar is regel, meaning to say that it's a regel b'fnei atzmoi le'inyan she'ein yoshvim b'sukkah. So, first of all, we need to understand what's up with le'inyan she'ein yoshvim b'sukkah. It's also you don't shake the lulav. There's no nisachamai. So it's a regel b'fnei atzmoi le'gabi all those things. Why did Rashi pick the sukkah? So the teretz is pashut. The fact that there's no lulav on Shmini Atzeres is not because it's Shmini Atzeres. It's not mihilchis, the regel of Shmini Atzeres. It's just that since the mitzvah of lulav is only for 7 days, so we no longer have the mitzvah of lulav on the 8th day. Not because it's a regel b'fnei atzmai. It's not mihilchis haregel of Shmini Atzeres that you should not shake the lulav. But no, even if it would be a weekday, you wouldn't shake the lulav. But the fiza, we need to understand. So why sukkah? Why do we say that sukkah? It's a regel for the Atzmai in sukkah. The fact that we don't sit in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres is not because it's Shmini Atzeres, but because it's after the Besukkah's Teish Shivas Yamin. It's not mihilchis, the regel of Shmini Atzeres. But you know that in the Targum Yonasan ben Azil on the pasuk Bayoim Shmini Atzeres Tihi Elochem, He says, B'yoyim atmina, on the 8th day, Knishun tehevu bechedva min matilchoin lebateichoin. You should gather with happiness, with joy, from your sukkahs to your homes. So he's teaching the word Atzeres is really about gathering, Atzeres tielachem, and it's about coming back from the sukkah into your home. So we see, and this is pointed out in the Sefer, in the classic Sefer Hamayadim Ba'aloche by Rav Zevin, that you see over here that the not sitting in the Sukkah on Shmini Atzeres is not only because it's no longer one of the 7 days of Sukkot, but it's also because it's a kiyum of Shmini Atzeres to go back home. And Knishin Tehevu B'chedva, that defines the Yontiv. And Memela, we understand that Rashi is saying that it's a regal b'fnei atzmei le'inyan she'en yoshim b'sukkah. The fact that we don't eat in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres is not just because it's no longer the 7 days. It's because it's the mehilchis, the yomtiv of Shmini Atzeres, that we should come back from the sukkah into our homes. So that's the regal b'fnei atzmei. That's the regal b'fnei atzmei le'inyan she'en yoshim b'sukkah. So lefize, maybe we can understand that Taz holds that once you took upon yourself the kedusha of Shmini Atzeres, you undid the chi of sukkah, because it's mihilchas the regel of Shmini Atzeres she'ein yoshim b'sukkah. So even though it's still Chaf Aleph Tishrei, but since they're not sitting in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres is not only because it's after the 7 days, but it's also because it's the halacha of the Yom Tov of Shmini Atzeres that you should come back home. Is Memela, if you took upon yourself the Yom Tov of Shmini Atzeres, you can no longer eat in the sukkah, and Memela, you can eat at home. That's what it would seem that Taz holds. But the emphasis is a very strange thing. So what kind of a kiyum mitzvah is it that we should go back home? I mean, what is that about? Knishin tehevun bechedva mimatzilchan lebateichon. So it could be, that Rashi brings in Parshas Amor and Parshas Re'eh that Shmini Atzeres is about a Moshel HaMelech, that he has to part with his children, and he says, Kosha alai preidaschem, your departure is difficult for me, and therefore he says, Ikvu iti yoim echot, stay with me one more day. I mean, how does the one more day change anything? It just postpones the problem. They're going to part a day later. So what is the ikvu imi yoim echad? How is that masalik, the kosher alai pridaskan? So it could be, you see, that the avodah of Sukkot is to leave our diras keva, our permanent residence, and live in a diras arai, where we are exposed to the elements. We can't protect ourselves. And that's in order to instill within us the recognition that we're tolui v'oimed in chasdei Hashem, and we really have nothing on our own. Just like, in the Anan Yaakov, Al Pi Hashem Yisu, Al Pi Hashem Yachnu, we were in a midbar, we were mukhed with the Anan Yaakov, we couldn't help ourselves, and it was only the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that's the what we're trying to instill in ourselves, the man yedu derei seichem, ki besukah seishafti as bnei Yisrael. That's the message. Now, Shmini Atzeres, we can now say, is about bringing that recognition back home, because the Soif Dover is not about feeling dependent on the Rebbeinu Shalom when you're really exposed to the elements and you're helpless, and you're hoping it's not going to rain. The tachlis is that even when you're in your diras keva, you should realize that it's not your own doing, and you're all dependent on the Rebbeinu Shalom. Kihu hanoisein lecho koyach laseis choyel. He's the one that gives you the ability to accomplish whatever you accomplish. So therefore, the avodah of Shmini Atzeres is knishin tehevoi bechedva mimatilchan ubateichon, that we should go back home and bring back home with us the hakora, the hasoge, that we were makir and we were masig on Sukkot when we sat in the diras arai. So that really removes the kosher olai preidaschen. because once we have the ikvu imayom echad at home, so the pshat is that we bring that hakara back home, and then it lasts all year. Not only when we're outside in the sukkahs arai, but also when we're home in the diras keva. And mainly you see that in sukkahs we have a special emphasis on this inyan of dvar yom b'yom, that the yom tiv is meant to accomplish, to be mashpia, for all the yomim haboim l'krasenu l'sholem. So I wish you all a guten moyed and a guten kvittel, and the Eibishter will help that we should our tefillas should be answered.